Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my Endless Diary Tales channel? Thank you so much. I heard his broken, desperate cries for help behind me, but I didn't stop. Instead, I walked even faster. In my previous life, I had witnessed this exact same scene. Without a second thought, I jumped into the icy water to save him. I managed to pull him out, but half of my body went numb from the cold. That moment left me with a lasting illness. I could never have children again. The most ridiculous thing was that my selfless act of saving his life only brought me and my family his entire family's disdain. In the end, I worked myself to death, tired, sick, and alone. Now that I've been given another life, I won't waste it meddling in someone else's business ever again. Just as I reached the entrance of the village, I nearly ran into Mr. Thompson, the team leader. He was rushing toward me and grabbed my arm. "Emily, there you are. I've been looking everywhere for you. The commune's tractor just brought in a batch of fertilizer and we're short on people. You're good with numbers. Come help keep the records." I immediately replied, "Got it, Mr. Thompson. I'll head over right now." Perfect. That would be my flawless alibi. I stayed at the brigade office the whole afternoon, not returning to the youth station until dusk. As soon as I stepped inside, someone hurried over and grabbed my hand. "Emily, why are you just getting back? Didn't you hear? Daniel Gray had an accident. He fell through the ice. When they found him, he was barely breathing. They just took him to the county clinic." I lowered my head and said softly, "I was at the brigade office all afternoon helping Mr. Thompson with the records. Besides, isn't he dating Lily White now? It wouldn't be right for me to interfere." After that, I ignored the person and went back to my bed. From the bottom of my trunk, I pulled out my high school textbooks wrapped in oilcloth. Under the dim glow of the kerosene lamp, I opened the first page. The next day, word spread again. Daniel hadn't died, but he had suffered badly. His fever was burning high and he was talking nonsense. Everyone at the youth station decided to visit him together. To avoid seeming indifferent, I went along with them. When we arrived at the clinic, Daniel was lying on the bed under 2 thick quilts. Yet he was still shivering violently. His face and lips were bluish-purple, but his cheeks were flushed bright red from the fever. His mouth moved constantly, muttering incoherently. Seeing him like that, everyone couldn't help sighing. "God, what kind of pain must he be in?" someone murmured. "Doctor, will this leave him with any lasting problems?" another asked. The doctor shook his head with a sigh. "He's regained consciousness, but he was exposed too long. His organs have taken some damage. It's hard to say what will happen next." Everyone stood around the bed, sighing and whispering. I stayed in the back, watching coldly. There wasn't a hint of pity in me. Instead, I remembered the way Daniel Gray had looked at me in my previous life, his eyes filled with naked disgust. Later, when I could no longer do heavy labor and was assigned to feed the pigs, he had shouted at me in front of everyone in the T-Mart, "Stay away from me. You stink." As if he'd forgotten that I ended up that way because I'd saved his life. Looking at his face twisted in pain on the hospital bed, a cold wave of satisfaction rose in my chest. He'd stayed in that icy water longer than I had. His outcome would be far worse. "Daniel Gray, this is only the beginning. The pain I endured in my last life. This time you'll pay it back with interest." Everyone at the youth station wore worried expressions. Daniel had always been good at pretending to be kind, and they all genuinely felt sorry for him. "What are we going to do now?" someone sighed. "Daniel's always been so proud of his hands. He kept saying that once he got back to the city, he'd rely on his craftsmanship to become a senior worker." "I heard it was Lily White who asked him out that day," another said. "But after all this, she's only come by once, stayed less than 10 minutes before leaving." I stood silently in the corner, listening without saying a word. Then the doctor treating Daniel walked in. "It's time to change his dressing," he said. "Who can give me a hand?" "He's still very agitated." 2 male volunteers immediately stepped forward. When the doctor lifted the bandages from Daniel's hands, both of them gasped sharply. His fingers and legs were swollen dark purple like rotten radishes. The skin at his knuckles had split open, exposing the pale, necrotic flesh beneath. Just looking at it made my scalp prickle. When Daniel Gray saw the state of his own hands and feet, He let out a broken guttural howl. He thrashed on the bed like a madman, hammering his elbows against the bed frame. How could this happen? My hands. My hands are ruined. How am I supposed to get into the factory now? My life is over. The 2 male volunteers couldn't hold him down at all. The ointment jar was knocked to the floor. I frowned and stepped forward. I'll do it, I said flatly. I reached out and gripped his wrist, my fingers pressing precisely into the inner ring of frostbitten skin where red and white mingled. That was where the nerves were most sensitive. A slight amount of pressure felt like a needle stabbing into bone. The sudden pain choked off Daniel's cries mid-throat. His whole body went rigid with shock, cold sweat rolling down his forehead. He stared at me in disbelief. You're messing with it. My hands and feet will be ruined for real. Expressionless, I looked him straight in the eye. Doctor, go ahead with the medicine. I'll hold him. To everyone else, it looked like I'd simply stepped in to help at a critical moment. Only I knew how much pain that gentle hold actually caused. Daniel didn't dare move again as he watched the doctor smear the black ointment over his frostbitten flesh. The light in his eyes quickly dimmed, and he looked at me with something close to a pleading gaze. Emily, he whispered, will my hands ever get better? I remembered all the ridicule and contempt I had suffered in my past life. In the calmest voice I could muster, I said, the tissue is dead, so are the nerves. Even if they heal, they'll never be like normal again. Forget running machinery. You might not even be able to hold a pair of chopsticks steady. And if an infection sets in, they may have to amputate. The color drained from Daniel's face all at once. I released his wrist without the slightest hint of guilt. A female volunteer tugged at my arm, whispering, Emily, that was too harsh. How is he supposed to handle hearing that? I masked the coldness in my eyes and let a trace of reluctance enter my tone. Better a short pain than a long one. He has to face reality sooner or later. It's for his own good. Compared to him calling me a useless, disgusting burden in front of the entire team, what was this? In my last life, hadn't he always regretted that I'd saved him? Well, now he'd finally gotten his wish. Daniel remained in the county clinic. Everyone at the youth station arranged to take turns caring for him. A few days later, it was my turn. When I walked in carrying a basket of cornbread rolls, Daniel was lying on the bed sighing. The 2 male volunteers had left early to help the villagers with farm work. When he saw that it was me who'd come, a flicker of disappointment crossed his face. He stayed silent for a while, but eventually hunger got the better of him. He straightened up the now cold cornbread roll with difficulty and spoke in a hoarse voice. My hands don't work. Break it up and feed me a few bites. His tone carried an air of command as if it were only natural. I stared at him unmoving. In my previous life I'd been burning with fever, my whole body too weak to move. Lying in bed, I'd asked him to bring me a cup of water and feed me. He had looked at me with pure impatience, slamming the enamel mug onto my bedside table. You've still got hands, don't you? Who are you trying to act delicate for? Because of that one sentence, I had forced myself out of bed and ended up collapsing on the floor, splitting my forehead open. Blood had poured down my face. Now looking at him in this state, I suddenly found it almost funny. I picked up the cornbread roll. In his expectant gaze, I returned his old words to him word for word. You've still got hands, don't you? Who are you trying to act delicate for? Daniel froze, clearly not expecting me to say that. His pale face flushed bright red, and he quickly turned his head away, refusing to look at me. For a moment the room fell completely silent, except for his heavy breathing. After a while he turned his head, his tone softening, a trace of pleading in his voice. Emily, my hands really don't work. Can you help me, please? When I stayed silent, he went on. Could you ask Lily if she can come see me today? Tell her I really miss her. I nodded, agreeing, because I really did want to know what kind of person this Lily White, whom he had longed for through 2 lifetimes, truly was. When I returned to the youth station, I went straight to Lily White's room. Before I even stepped inside, I heard her laughing and chatting with another female volunteer. I entered and saw her leaning toward a small mirror, carefully rubbing cold cream onto her face. She was wearing a clean shirt, clearly preparing to go out. I relayed Daniel Gay's words to her. Lily didn't even turn her head. Yeah, I know. I'm busy. Okay, she said impatiently. The girl next to her giggled. Lily, where are you off to? All dressed up like that. Lily raised her eyebrows proudly. The guy from the supply station asked me to go watch a movie in town tonight. If I'm late, we'll miss the opening. Then, as if only just remembering Daniel, she turned back to me and said carelessly, Tell him I'll come see him when I get a chance. When I returned to the county clinic, Daniel immediately struggled up from the bed, asking eagerly, What did Lily say? Is she coming right away? I repeated Lily's exact words without changing a thing. Daniel froze for a long moment, muttering as if trying to convince himself. She must be trying to get me some supplements. I curled my lips slightly and said almost pointedly, Not really. She's dressed up beautifully. She's going to a movie tonight. Originally, I'd thought frostbite would be Daniel Gray's greatest retribution, but now it seemed Lily White herself was his biggest blow. I watched the light in Daniel's eyes go out completely. He stared blankly at the ceiling, sinking into a dead silence. I couldn't be bothered to look at his half-dead expression any longer. I slammed the enamel bowl onto the table and turned to leave. As I did, I heard a muffled sob behind me. Whatever happened in his life now had nothing to do with me. At the same time, I received a package from my parents in the city, sent to me through many hands. When I tore open the thick oilcloth, inside were several brand new math and science review books and a letter. In it, my parents told me they'd heard that the college entrance exams might soon be reinstated. They urged me, whether the news was true or not, to seize this chance to test back into the city and rebuild my life. I had already known the news was true, but seeing it confirmed in my parents' own handwriting still brought hot tears to my eyes. This was the opportunity one had been waiting for through 2 lifetimes. From that day on, I studied even harder. During the day, while working in the fields, I wrote formulas on my palms and memorized them during breaks. At night, when everyone at the youth station had gone to sleep, I worked through problems by moonlight. In the deep stillness of the night, I often remembered my past life. Back then I had married Daniel Gray. My health had already collapsed, but I still refused to give up on studying. I always thought that if I learned a little more, maybe I could find another way out. But after painstakingly saving enough to buy textbooks, Daniel had snatched them from me, ripped them apart, and thrown them into the stove. Looking at me with open scorn, he had cursed, Do you even understand this stuff? Still trying to be an educated person? You're a useless woman who can't even have children. Reading more books only makes you look pathetic. No one was going to ruin my future in this life. Thinking of that, I threw myself into my studies even harder. Half a month later, Daniel was discharged from the clinic. One day, I had just come back from the fields when I saw Lily White intimately supporting Daniel Gray. The two of them chatting and laughing together. I stared in surprise at the pair before me, so close and carefree. Everyone had thought Lily White had completely cut ties with Daniel Gray. After all, although his fingers and legs hadn't been amputated, his limbs were already completely necrotic. He walked with a limp, dragging one leg. In his current state, forget going back to the city and getting into a factory. He was a burden even for farm work in the countryside. Yet Daniel Gray couldn't hide the pride and showiness on his face. He clutched Lily White's hand tightly and, in front of all the volunteers and Mr. Thompson, spoke out loudly. Mr. Thompson, with the way my body is now, I can't get by without someone looking after me. Lily says she's willing to take care of me. Could you arrange for the two of us to live in the same room? Lily White lowered her head shyly and following his words added softly, Daniel says he'll marry me. I truly want to take care of him. The moment those words came out, the room exploded. In the 1970s, an unmarried man and woman living together was scandalous. If word got out, not only would the youth station be criticized, but the entire brigade would be dragged into it. It was completely improper. Absolutely not. Mr. Thompson's face turned dark as iron. If such a thing spread, how could their brigade hold its head up outside? Other volunteers quickly tried to persuade Lily. Even if you two are engaged, you're still a young woman. You'll only suffer for it. How can you live in the same room with a man? I looked at Lily White's expression of sacrifice for love, and my heart was full of doubts. In my previous life, I had accidentally discovered that Daniel's fall into the ice hole had been planned by him all along. Just a few days ago, Lily had treated him like a venomous snake. How had she suddenly become willing to live with him? Surely it wasn't out of conscience. As the standoff dragged on and Mr. Thompson still refused to give in, Daniel suddenly grew agitated. Pointing at Mr. Thompson, he screamed, "If you don't agree, you're forcing me to die. I barely escaped with my life. You won't let me live. Fine, I'll smash my head and die right here." Shouting as he went, he lunged toward the wall. The room descended into chaos. Mr. Thompson's face went black as the bottom of a pot. To have been assigned a volunteer like this was the worst luck in 8 lifetimes. I watched Daniel rolling around, putting on his shameless performance, and suddenly remembered how in my previous life he would get drunk and beat me, shouting, "If it weren't for you meddling, I'd have married Lily long ago. Her father's a factory director. I'd already be a workshop supervisor. You ruined my whole life, you useless thing." But as far as I knew, Lily White wasn't the daughter of any factory director at all. Thinking of that, I stepped forward. "Mr. Thompson, everyone, let's stop arguing." All eyes turned to me. I noticed the little thatched hut next to the youth station has been empty for a long time. Since they're both willing, it's not right for us to force them. Why not let them move in there? That way they'll stop making a scene every day and disrupting our rest and work. My suggestion brought instant silence to the room. Mr. Thompson frowned, thinking it over. Clearly, he also wanted to get rid of these 2 hot potatoes, and my proposal suited him perfectly. It was exactly what Daniel and Lily wanted. Daniel immediately stopped his act, and Lily couldn't hide the proud smile on her face. That afternoon, under everyone's contemptuous stares, they moved into the drafty little thatched hut. In my previous life, Daniel had always blamed his failures on not marrying Lily White, the supposed factory director's daughter. This time I would grant his wish, personally pairing them up. I wanted to see just how high he could fly without me dragging him down. After Daniel and Lily moved out, life at the youth station grew much quieter. I poured all the time I saved into studying. For me, the college entrance exam was the only chance to change my fate. I couldn't afford to fail. But Daniel and Lily's life was clearly not going well. The thatched hut leaked wind from all 4 sides and was basically unlivable. Daniel's hands and feet were useless. Out of pity, the team gave him only half a work point allowance. At first, Lily made a show of taking care of him, but soon she stopped coming around regularly at all. Their food rations ran out quickly. One night, as I got up and passed by the thatched hut, I happened to hear Lily White's tearful voice inside. "Daniel, it's all my fault. I'm so weak. I want to share your burden, but I can't. Seeing you suffer hurts me more than anything. I'm not afraid of hardship here. I'm only afraid we won't have a future." Daniel Gray was completely swept away by her softness. He hugged her tightly and tried to comfort her. "We will, Lily. Just wait until I get back to the city. Everything will get better." Lily cried prettily, like a flower in the rain. "But even if you get back to the city, no factory will take a worker whose hands don't work. What are we going to do?" Daniel's voice went hoarse. Lily sounded as if she'd made up her mind. "Daniel, let me go instead." "Okay." Daniel clearly froze. Lily hurried to explain. "Listen to me first. Give me your quota. I'll go back to the city and into the factory. I'm young and strong. I can earn money. Once I'm settled, I'll send all my wages to you and then try to pull strings to get you back for treatment. We only have 1 quota. We have to use it where it counts. Only then can both of us survive." Every word was for their future. Hearing this, I couldn't help a cold smile. So that's what she was after, the quota to return to the city. No wonder she'd suddenly turned so tender. Daniel didn't even hesitate. He said, moved, "Lily, I'll listen to you. I'll write to my parents right now to transfer the quota to you." That shocking news spread through the entire youth station. Everyone thought Daniel Gray had lost his mind. A chance to return to the city was something countless people would give anything for, and he was just handing it over to a woman. This quota had been obtained only because he'd been injured, and his family had called in every favor they could to secure it. One of the volunteers came to me, unable to hold back. "Emily, didn't you and Daniel grow up together? How can you not try to talk sense into him?" I kept flipping through my book without looking up. "We're just ordinary neighbors. He chose his own path. Everyone has to be responsible for their choices." The person left frustrated at hitting a wall. Daniel himself, faced with everyone's comments, only looked proud. When someone cautiously asked, "Daniel, did you really give the quota to Lily White?" He lifted his chin, his expression defiant. "Yeah, so what? You think I'm as short-sighted as you? This is our way out. You don't understand. This is called love." I stood not far away, watching his blissful face coldly. There wasn't the slightest ripple in my heart. Around us, people looked at him, opened their mouths as if to speak, then just shook their heads and walked away, probably thinking his illness had gotten into his brain. I put all my energy into studying. Every day after work, I went to the abandoned granary to read. It was quiet there and no one disturbed me. That day, I was bent over my formulas when Daniel limped in. He instinctively tried to stand up straight to hide his limp, a flash of discomfort crossing his face before pride replaced it. Ever since giving up his quota, he'd rarely gone into the fields. He spent his days cooped up in the hut with Lily, living off the small ration the youth station allotted them. He thought I hid there because I was heartbroken over him and Lily. "Emily, I've been looking for you everywhere," he said. I didn't look up, still focusing on the formulas, not wanting to waste a bit of daylight. My indifference annoyed him, but soon he lifted his chin again, a smile on his face. In a tone tinged with condescension, he said, "I have good news for you. Lily's already got my application form to return to the city and join the factory. Once her father finishes the paperwork in town, she'll be an official worker at a state-owned plant." He paused, staring at me as if waiting for me to show pain or shock on my face. When I didn't react at all, he raised his voice. "We're getting engaged soon. Once she settles down in the city, she'll bring me back there." He probably thought those words would hurt me, that I was still the same woman who once liked him. Unfortunately for him, he didn't know I'd long since left him behind. I finished memorizing the last formula before slowly raising my head. Looking at his smug, self-satisfied face, I couldn't help but find it ridiculous. He kept talking, his tone strangely confident. "I know you've always wanted to marry me, but love can't be forced. The only one I love is Lily." Hearing his words, my mind filled with question marks. I couldn't even be bothered to correct his absurd statement. I only felt that it was beyond words. Watching him get lost in his own self-made drama, I said calmly, "You're overthinking it." Daniel let out a short, derisive laugh, clearly not believing me. "Don't act tough. I know you're upset. You used to follow me everywhere. Everyone could see how you felt." Straightening his back, he added proudly, "Lily and I are going to be together for life. There's no chance between us anymore." I lifted an eyebrow and said evenly, "Congratulations. I wish you both happiness and a quick firstborn." The smile froze on Daniel's face. Clearly, he hadn't expected that kind of reaction. I didn't give him the chance to keep talking. I pointed toward the shadow he was casting across my book. "Mind stepping aside? You're blocking my light." Daniel's smugness didn't last long. After Lily received the paperwork for his city transfer, she completely stopped going to the fields. That cut off their last source of work points. Without them, their food rations ran out quickly. Daniel, dragging his crippled leg, had to limp to the canteen again and again to beg for food. At first, some people still helped him out of old sympathy, but after too many times, no one could keep doing it. Everyone's own rations were tight. No one wanted to feed him endlessly. The tension finally exploded at the autumn harvest labor discipline meeting. Mr. Thompson called out those who weren't working hard and pointedly mentioned Lily White. Some people refused to work in the fields and only think about sneaky ways to get back to the city. That kind of thinking has no place here. Before his words even finished, Daniel jumped up, his face red with fury. Pointing at Mr. Thompson, he shouted, "Who are you calling sneaky? Lily's doing this for our future. She went back to the city to work so I'd have hope again. You people don't understand." A male volunteer couldn't hold back anymore. He stood up and shot back. "Are you crazy? You gave her your quota. Once she's back in the city, you think she'll care about you? If she really cared, she wouldn't just sit by while you beg for food every day." Daniel completely lost control. "You're just jealous. Jealous that someone loves me. Jealous that we'll have a better life." He grew more and more agitated, and despite his injured leg, he lurched forward to attack the other man. The room instantly broke into chaos. "Enough." Mr. Thompson slammed his hand on the table, his face dark. Looking at Daniel, who was beyond reason, he lost the last trace of sympathy. In front of everyone, he announced, "Daniel Gray, you refused to repent and have insulted your comrades. Starting today, your work points, subsidies, and rations are revoked. We'll be reporting your conduct to the commune." The room fell completely silent. Everyone knew what that meant. Daniel would no longer receive a single grain of food here. Most people expected him to panic and admit his mistakes. Instead, he just sneered. "Who cares? My family will send me money and food stamps. I don't need you, bunch of mud-legged peasants." After the meeting, everyone deliberately avoided him. He became completely isolated, but instead of blaming himself, he seemed to place all the blame on me. One night, as I reached the entrance of the youth station, he suddenly blocked my path. His eyes were dark and full of resentment. "Emily," he said coldly, "back when I went out looking for Lily. If you'd stopped me that day," Daniel said bitterly, "I wouldn't have fallen into the ice. My hands and feet wouldn't be ruined." He spoke as if it were the most reasonable thing in the world, as though my failure to stop him was the reason he was crippled. I was speechless for a moment, then almost laughed. I looked at him and asked calmly, "Are you 3 years old?" Every volunteer started studying late into the night under oil lamps, cramming for the exam. Everyone except Lily White. She didn't look for books or ask about the test, as if the news had nothing to do with her. One night, while fetching water near the brigade warehouse, I happened to see two people meeting secretly. I stopped and in the dim light recognized Lily White and the man from the commune who oversaw the youth volunteers, Mr. Wong. I couldn't help but smile. The Gray family had drained their savings for Daniel's engagement, and in the end, he wasn't even her backup plan. I heard Lily's voice, sweet and smug. "I already got the city return quota. Once I'm back, you'd better marry me." Mr. Wong chuckled, his tone lazy. "You live with Daniel every day. There's nothing between you two, right?" Lily pouted. "What are you afraid of? He sleeps like a dead pig. Don't I sneak out just to see you? You haven't seen how disgusting his wounds are. They make me lose my appetite. I'm only staying for you. Once I squeeze every cent I can from his family, we'll go back to the city and buy ourselves a big house." Then came the sound of their eager, lingering kisses. I waited until they were gone before quietly carrying my bucket back to the dormitory as if nothing had happened. Daniel Gray was being played for a fool, and I couldn't help but feel a dark satisfaction. I could almost applaud. In this life, I wanted nothing to do with their mess. The other volunteers soon began noticing that Lily White was dressing up more and more every day. Bright clothes, painted lips, and coming back later and later, sometimes not even returning at night. People couldn't help whispering about it behind her back. One time, Daniel overheard and nearly started a fight. In his eyes, everything Lily did was for his sake. He handed over all the money and food stamps his family sent him, and she spent them in no time. The canteen had long since stopped feeding him, so he survived on thin bowls of mixed grain porridge that a few sympathetic volunteers occasionally shared. With poor nutrition and his frostbite never properly healed, his hands and feet began to fester again, oozing pus and rot. His hut reeked of decaying flesh. The stench was so bad that no one dared go near, but he endured it silently, as if afraid to cause Lily any trouble. It wasn't long before something happened. A male volunteer who lived next door said the smell was so strong he couldn't sleep. When he finally pushed open Daniel's door, he found him lying motionless on the bed. First he thought Daniel was dead. Gathering his courage, he touched Daniel's forehead, only to find it burning hot. Daniel was unconscious, fevered to the point of delirium. Everyone panicked, lifting him onto a flatbed cart and rushing him to the commune clinic. And at that moment, Lily White was nowhere to be found. This time, Daniel's condition was far worse than before. After examining his festering, pus-filled wounds, the doctor's face darkened. He called Mr. Thompson aside, and since I was there as the youth station's representative, I followed. The doctor said gravely, "The infection is too severe. If you want to save his life, his right foot must be amputated." Amputation meant Daniel Gray would be permanently disabled. Mr. Thompson was silent for a long time before sighing and turning to me. "Emily, go inform Lily White. No matter what, she's his fiancée. She has the right to know." When I found Lily, she was packing her things on her bunk. In her hand was an envelope holding her transfer documents and the official letter for her move back to the city. Her face was glowing with excitement and anticipation. When I repeated the doctor's words to her, her smile vanished instantly. The first thing out of her mouth was, "The city transfer paperwork. The brigade and commune both stamped it right. His condition won't affect my transfer, will it?" She didn't care at all whether Daniel lived or died, only whether her return to the city would be affected. I looked at her and said calmly, "It won't. All your papers are in order." She visibly relaxed and, under the disapproving stares of the other volunteers, reluctantly followed me to the clinic. Daniel lay on the hospital bed, unconscious, his face flushed red from fever. Lily only took one glance from the doorway before impatiently turning to leave. Mr. Thompson told me to stay and watch over him, and to ask for his family's contact information once he woke up. Around midnight, Daniel stirred. When he saw me sitting beside the bed, 2 tears slipped down from the corners of his cracked eyes. "Emily," he whispered hoarsely, "am I going to lose my leg? Am I going to be useless?" I said lightly, "Don't worry. Lily White will take care of you." He blinked, dazed as if trying to convince himself. "Yeah, Lily said she'll take care of me. She'll make me happy." I knew that for the sake of marrying Lily, he'd already emptied his family's savings. He couldn't accept the truth that Lily never loved him. But the night before Lily was supposed to leave, Daniel somehow found out. He snuck out of the clinic, dragging his infected leg, and caught me at the entrance of the youth station. "Emily," he cried incoherently. "That woman Lily, she lied to me." Daniel clutched my arm, his eyes bloodshot, his voice trembling. "Someone told me Lily's been with Mr. Wong from the commune for a long time. Everyone's seen them together. She never planned to take me back to the city. She's been lying to me this whole time." I watched his face crumble but said nothing. People had warned him before. Ever since Lily started staying out all night, gossip had spread non-stop. He just hadn't wanted to believe it. He choked on his words, then suddenly raised his voice. "So, even me falling into the ice hole, that was her doing," Daniel said hoarsely. I hadn't expected him to find out the truth so quickly. Slightly surprised, I asked, "How did you know?" He pulled a crumpled piece of paper from his coat pocket, his hands trembling as he held it out to me. "It's a letter Lily never sent. Because Mr. Wong didn't like me, she wanted to please him. So, she tricked me into going to the frozen river and ruined me." Mr. Wong and Daniel had argued before, but it was nothing serious. The letter was filled from start to finish with Lily's betrayal and calculation. Daniel collapsed to the ground, clutching his head, sobbing uncontrollably. He pounded his useless legs with his fists as he cried. "I gave her all my family's money. I even gave her my city return quota. I thought she really loved me." Remembering what had happened in my last life, I felt only one thing. He deserved it. I didn't want to hear any more of his pitiful rambling. Cutting him off, I said flatly, "Even if you regret it, there's nothing to fix. The best thing you can do now is go back and recover." I turned to leave, but he suddenly lunged forward and grabbed the hem of my pants. "Emily, I know I was wrong. I was blind before. I hurt you. You're the only one who can help me now. Let's start over. Okay, I know you still love me. I'll treat you right this time. I swear." The nearby volunteers froze, stunned that he could even say something like that. I bent down, forcing back my disgust, and pried his hand off my clothes. Mimicking the same tone of contempt he'd once used on me in my past life, I said each word slowly and clearly. "You can't even walk straight. A loser like you isn't worthy of me." Daniel's crying stopped abruptly. His eyes were filled with disbelief. I didn't look at him again. I turned and walked away. I'm not a garbage collector. Why would I go digging through trash for a man? The next morning, I was jolted awake by a scream. Rushing out of the dormitory, I saw a crowd gathered near the tractor that was about to head for the county. I squeezed through the people and saw Lily White, a canvas bag slung over her shoulder, just about to climb onto the truck. Daniel stood in front of it, blocking her way. He leaned on a wooden crutch, gripping a hatchet tightly in his other hand. His face was twisted and feral. When Lily saw him, all the color drained from her face. She shook like a leaf. Daniel, please let me explain. I swear I was coming back for you. I'm going to find a doctor for you. Daniel didn't listen. He raised the hatchet and swung it down hard. Everyone froze in terror, no one daring to move. Lily didn't even have time to dodge. He struck her several times before she collapsed to the ground. After killing her, Daniel burst out laughing, a crazed hollow sound. The village militia arrived moments later, tackled him to the ground, and tied him up. There was no escaping prison for him now. People whispered in shock. What a sin! How could someone fall so far? But the story faded quickly. The college entrance exams were about to begin. I went to the county to take the test, and a month later, I received my admission letter from Capital University. The red seal stamped on the white paper bore my name in clear, bold letters. I couldn't stop the tears from falling. On the day I left, Mr. Thompson came specially to see me off. Just before the train started, he sighed. Daniel Gray's in prison. I heard he got tetanus. He's dying. His family wrote asking if we could give up on treatment to save the hospital costs. I didn't reply. Maybe that was karma. Outside the window, the fields, houses, and familiar faces flew past in a blur. Sunlight streamed through the glass, spilling across my face. Everything from the past was fading behind me. My parents were waiting at home to celebrate. The train rumbled forward, carrying me toward a brand new, bright future.